computer. Okay. Good evening. My name is Ngui. I am the Director of Innovation and Startups at the Greater Peoria Economic Development Council. And we're here to talk about how to really know and understand who your customers are. But first, what we're going to do is we're going to start with a round of introductions, and I'd love to hear from everyone why you're here. And so we're going to start with our friend online, Eric Sampson. Eric, over to you.
I like that. Online Eric Sampson. That's my new name. So I'm the director of the Illinois Small Business Development Center at Bradley University. And we're a great place for people that have a new idea for a business to start and get some of the nuts and bolts on what to do in terms of regulatory and organization.
Perfect. And then now we'll move to our friends in person. So let's start with Katie.
Oh boy, okay. All right, I feel kind of weird looking at the camera, so I'm just gonna look at you guys because you're here in person. So I'm Katie Vandenberg. I live in Tremont. I have a divorce coaching practice, so I help people get divorced. I also am an artist, and so I make I have a wheel, so it's pottery, ceramics, and we invest in real estate. So that's my thing. So I have a lot of variety of things I do. And I know Nathan for years from our time together. Thank you. Thanks. I started Eli's in Eli's coffee shop, but I don't know that any longer.
I'm Sharterius Mosley, owner of Sharp Photography, and recently I just added on a mobile studio to the business. So I'm really trying to figure out like where are my customers and coming up with just neat, great ideas as far as bringing the studio to them a creative way. Regardless, whether it's a business or residential, Yeah.
Said.
Oh, I'm taking notes. I'm Sid Dockery, owner of White Cannon Studio, Peoria Life and Associated Brands. I'm also the co-owner of Said Invest Enterprises and a DBA Said Box. All of that goes together to try to help the people that we can help in business get started or get to whatever the next level is. We all plateau, you know what I mean? So it's nice to know that you have an entry-level assistant just waiting to help you
out. Hi, my name is Chris Graytech. I'm the owner of Graytech Solutions. Graytech Solutions is a very interesting company. It started as a company basically to help others develop streaming equipment. So in a world post-pandemic where a lot of things are going towards streaming and not many people know exactly how to do that, my business started as a way to help foster growth in the pandemic post-world. So I do that as well as I have a 3D printing farm as well for people who are interested in 3D printed assets and whatever they may be looking at for me to be able to make stuff for them.
Oh yeah. Do you do costumes as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That's fantastic.
I'm breaking up with you two. This is my new best.
Awesome.
We were.
So
I
soon?
don't know.
It hasn't even been a whole minute yet.
Well, I'm Nate Dominighini, director of G-Beta Distillery Labs. It's nice to be in, pretty much often find myself in a room full of founders. So it's cool to be among all of you who take the jump, take risks, and really jump into a world that's can be scary, but also incredibly exciting too. So, the G-Beta Distillery Labs is a 7-week accelerator for early stage startups, and I'm happy to talk to anybody who wants to learn more about it. So, thanks for being here.
John.
I'm John Ngui, co-owner of Smiley Graphic Studio with my wife Dee, who does eco-friendly package design, and I do web development. We have started a passion project called Wild Routing where we give back to the National Park Service and try to build an ethos of people who are we're trying to connect people to outdoors, connect to each other, away from computers, and just be in touch with nature. So we're here to try to figure out who our customers are.
Awesome. Arnaud.
Hi, my name is Arnaud, and I'm a junior at Bardeens University, majoring in construction management.
Awesome. Darina.
My name is Darina. I'm a Bradley University student majoring in health science and minoring in sustainability. I currently work as a group and personal history.
Esther.
Hi, I'm Esther, and I'm junior at Bradley University, studying psychology.
Awesome. Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for, actually, we have one more person. Sam, you want to introduce yourself? Oh. We can't hear you. Oh, there you are.
Sorry, I was having technical difficulties. Hi, everybody. I'm Sam Miller. I am a coach, speaker, and trainer for people like myself who want to live a limitless life, even though they have a disability. I myself have cerebral palsy, and I'm coming out with a new book called I'm Possible. And my business is called Dreaming Made Simple because I'm all about that. I'm all about making people's dreams simple and helping them overcome obstacles.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Andrew.
Okay, so we're going to start. And so I want to share my screen for those who are online. So what I want to talk about today is this framework called Disciplined Entrepreneurship that is taught at MIT. It's a systematic process by which you can play the game of entrepreneurship, and then you can level up. It's, you know, in some ways it's linear, like Monopoly, but also in other ways, it's like chutes and ladders where you can keep jumping back and forth, right? And part of it is there's 6 themes, and the first theme is, who is your customer? And that's probably the biggest important piece, because I'm gonna get into a video series on why this is important. So I'm gonna start. Okay, one second. All right. Let's see here. Can everybody see my screen? Oh, wait, hold on. I better make sure. Sam, can you see this screen that I'm sharing the video right now? I just want to make sure it's recorded. Okay, wait, one second.
Yeah, I see it, Andrew.
You see it now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So we're gonna start this video. So we're gonna start with this video about what is entrepreneurship.
The first lesson we teach our students when they arrive here on campus is define your terms. Before you solve a problem, it's essential to have clarity as to what everyone is talking about. The first term we need to define in this course on entrepreneurship is entrepreneur. Entrepreneur comes from a French word that means to undertake, which is very appropriate because what an entrepreneur does is they undertake a journey to create a new venture, and that involves risk. There's a common misperception that entrepreneurs are gamblers and they love to take risks. In fact, nothing could be further from the truth. What entrepreneurs know how to do is, through a rational, systematic process, manage risk to their advantage. The story of entrepreneurs being mad geniuses who take ideas and turn them into gold is just a story. Beyond the misconception that entrepreneurs are undisciplined gamblers, there's a few other myths that we need to dispel right away. First of all, that they're born not made. Secondly, that they're particularly intellectually gifted. And third, that they're mercurial individualists. And fourth, maybe most of all, they're just lucky. These are all whopping lies. The reality is much different. If you take a wildly successful entrepreneur and you peek behind the image of the chaos-loving visionary, and you'll find something much different. You'll find a group of remarkably disciplined people. Steve Jobs once famously said, "It's more fun to be a pirate than to join the Navy." So here, we're going to embrace that pirate spirit inside of you, and we're going to add to it the execution skills of a Navy SEAL. And we're going to have a heck of a lot of fun doing it. So good luck and welcome to Disciplined Entrepreneurship. Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Bill Aulet, and let me just start with a story. I'll never forget when I first started teaching entrepreneurship at MIT. I came back over the summer, and Nathan came into my office. And I had known Nathan from the year before, and I loved Nathan. And Nathan came in and said, "Bill, I'm ready to launch a business. Can you help me raise some money?" I said, "Well, what is it, Nathan? What's your business?" And he said, "The name of my business is Dynamo. And it's a new membrane technology. And what it does is revolutionizes the fuel cell industry. What it does is it produces 53% more power than anything out there today. It does this with 100 times less methanol crossover. And by the way, I have patented proprietary technology on this, and the patent's issued, and I got it. By the way, it costs less too. There's a new manufacturing technology. So I am ready to go." And I looked at Nathan's business plan, and I skimmed through it quickly. I said, "Nathan, this is really great. You should be really proud of yourself." I said, "But you know what? Here at the Martin Trust Center for MIT Entrepreneurship, we're about starting new ventures. And to start a new company, before you go out and raise money, I think you need to talk to a friend of mine's child." He said, "Well, who's that?" And he said, "Well, it's a friend who's in the business of lemons." He said, "Lemons? What is it, synthetic biology? What does he do? Is it some new fuel cell that I don't know about?" He said, "No. He actually takes lemons, he squeezes the lemons, he puts water and sugar into it, and then he puts it in a glass, and he sells it to people. They give him money for his product." Nathan looked at me and said, "I don't get it." I said, "Nathan, here's the point of the story. This is a center to create new companies. This is not a science fair project. The fundamental business of business is to get paying customers. The single necessary and sufficient condition for a business, there is one and only one. It is to have a paying customer. So if you have a paying customer, you have a business. If you don't have a paying customer, you don't have a business yet. It's that simple." So now
Wait, what does everybody think about that statement?
Triggered. Yeah, a little bit.
Why? Why?
That story in particular, if you're using that as extremely, if that were true, would be extremely disheartening to hear from somebody. Like, I get what the statement is. The statement is like, you're not a business, you're a researcher, and you're looking for research grants type scenario, which is fair. But like, as an engineer, and like by trade, it's like, cool, that would just be extremely disheartening to hear.
Yeah, it would, wouldn't it? Who else has any thoughts on that?
You know, I'd throw in there. That it's particularly working with founders who are pre-revenue. For example, there's a lot of business involved in capturing an audience. There's a lot of business involved in raising capital to get your startup off the ground. So, while I understand the point of what he's saying there is that once you're in business, then you're in business. You're making money. There's also a lot to it, and I think that also kind of creates somewhat of a false perception of what being an entrepreneur is as well. So I don't know, but I also get this point too.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, Sid.
I look at it a bit different. What I got from the statement in the story was, you don't have a business unless you have someone ready to buy what you're selling already, right? I'm in kind of like the same situation, right? There are people ready to buy, but not at the price.
Yeah.
Right? So my job is to convert them to the reality of cost, right? I have customers, they're just not ready to, invest in themselves. Right? You're not paying me. You're building your brand. You're building, whatever your public persona is going to be through us, right? So that's the answer to the question. Is there anyone ready to buy right now? Right? What the professor is telling the student is, who's your customer? That's what he's asking. You know what I mean? And that's really, I think, what the teacher wants. For them to say, hold on, teacher, you don't know what you're talking about. I've talked to this business, this business, this business, this business. I can get orders if I knew what I could charge. You know what I mean? Back to your precinct. Right? So yeah, that's right.
Cool. Great discussion. Now let's keep going. Okay.
We talked about Nathan. Let me complement that with the second story. This is a story of Erdin. Erdin graduated from MIT 15 years ago, and he was very successful in business. And he decided that after that, he wanted to start his own business. So he thought about different ideas, and then he realized, boy, there's no Lamborghini dealership in Boston. I'm going to start a Lamborghini dealership. He took out $1 million of his own money, and he built a business plan, and he built this business to provide the total experience to his customers. He finds the right location, the right building. He hires 2 mechanics. He's going to sell Lamborghinis. He's going to service those Lamborghinis. He's going to be part of this community. So Erdin is very proud of this, and he opens his doors on Tuesday morning after setting this up for over 6 months. And Tuesday morning, nothing happens. No one comes in. The phone doesn't ring. And finally, at 10:35, Laura walks through the door. Laura, who he hasn't seen since he was at MIT. And Laura says, Erdin, it's so lovely to see you. It's great to have you in the neighborhood. I've been looking for someone who can fix my car that I can trust. Now, I know you make a high profit on Lamborghinis, and I'm willing to pay you that. I don't have a Lamborghini, at which time Erdin looks out the window and sees that she's driving a 4-year-old Volvo, and in the back, there's 2 car seats. Erdin says, well, I guess we could service it, but I have to make the same gross margin I make with Lamborghinis. Laura says, fine, let's do that. I don't think it's going to be that much, but I have $900. If you'll service it, I'll pay you, and I'll make sure you make the profit. Erdin thinks about this, says, look, let me think. A paid customer, that's good. I've got 2 people in the back that aren't doing anything. I could offset their salaries by doing this, and I could start to become a member of this community. Erdin's wondering, should he take the business? So now I would like you to play the role of Erdin. Would you take Laura's business? Yes or no?
Okay.
Yes.
Why?
Don't let them leave with the money.
Who else says yes? Hands up. Katie, why yes?
Because sometimes you go into business and you have to kind of morph. You're
Okay.
not always doing exactly what you start out thinking you're going to do.
Okay, but you spend $1 million.
I would never spend $1 million.
Of course. But like in the case of Erdin, he spent $1 million to launch a Lamborghini dealership. Yeah. Who else? Who says yes? Who else says yes? Okay. Okay, Chris and Nate. What? Okay.
I mean, it's similar. You kind of have to morph. I think the main thing that I would have done before anything would have been market research.
Yeah.
If somebody is not walking into your door the minute that you open,
yeah,
then there was not a want in that market for a Lamborghini dealership. So if you're finding that immediately, like there's not a want, and so I have to go with what I got, you have to morph to what is available and figure out what's actually going to work in that market.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of lame in that same sense. It's,
okay.
A lot of businesses jump into it without doing that market research, but to themselves think they have a great idea. So sometimes it takes some adaptation and adjusting to what your community says. So but that's kind of
John, what do you think?
And I'm from the standpoint of those 2 mechanics in back. Are they doing anything else? Are they doing something that's going to help me get work, customers in the door? And if they're not, well, then they could do this change and help cover some of the costs while I figure out what the heck's happening.
Yeah.
Because to the point of this, obviously something went significantly wrong if they open the doors of the Lamborghini dealership and no one walks in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot bigger issue here. But I would say do
I mean, obviously we're oversimplifying it, but for the sake of discussion.
For the sake of this.
She could be a future customer.
Yeah.
Would wait, what did you just say? Hold on. Okay, wait. Help me understand. How do you go from a four-door Volvo, 4-year-old Volvo with 2 car seats to a level? Sorry, what?
By having the older car for you, I drive a 2003 Cadillac.
Would you buy a Ferrari?
Huh?
Would you buy a Ferrari?
Maybe in like 20 years when I can afford one.
Okay.
Because I've been driving this other.
Okay.
So then maybe future.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
You know, you do things because then you gain that relationship and get into the community like he wants to do.
Okay. Darina, do you have anything to share?
Oh yeah. I don't know. I feel like he could do this, but at the same time, it's not his ideal customer. It's like the people can come maybe because of the bad marketing. It doesn't mean that there's no people. Maybe nobody like really knows the business is opening, you know, or like they didn't position themselves as a good service. So maybe that's why people are not coming because they're like, oh, like maybe they want something different, you know. So if he like helps and he like does it for this price, he's kind of gonna lower his standards and position his like business as like doing something different. That's what the actual mission was. So I don't know.
So are you a no?
I would say no.
Okay. Esther? Yes or no? Okay. Okay. Arnaud?
I would like to say no, but realistically it's a yes.
Okay. Okay.
If you have to pay the loan and it's like you I mean he said he took it out of his own money. If he has a huge loan, he has to pay for it, like due soon.
Okay, so good point. So I'm gonna introduce a shift in a variable in the scenario. He takes Laura's service to get the oil change, and in drives a brand new Lamborghini that came from the next state. His 2 people are servicing Laura's car. What happens? What happens? Hold that thought, okay? Hold that thought. Hold that thought. We'll
So most of you probably answered that yes, you would take the business because in the last session we talked about the importance of having a paying customer. And clearly Laura is a paying customer. And Erdin felt the same way. So like, I got to do this. I can make money. The people in the back aren't busy. I got to make payroll. Let's start getting the customer interactions going. But Laura goes off and gets a cup of coffee. And now Erdin's starting to have some second thoughts about this. He's starting to think, wow, wait a second. I remember my professors from business school saying, focus, focus, focus. That's what you need as an entrepreneur. You have to create an exclusive brand and experience if you're going to be a Lamborghini dealership. And he starts thinking, am I giving all this up for this customer? This isn't my customer. And so now, at this point, I'll ask you, do you think still that you should take Laura's business? Please answer yes or no.
Yes. Who said yes before and wants to say no? There's no right or wrong answer.
No, I know. I can see that now. Like, yeah, that makes a good point.
Can I like, are we looking at an ideal scenario in which he has done the market research and there is like the one for a Lamborghini dealership there? Because I feel like that is a huge oversight in this example. It's true.
So this has been highly debated across multiple countries. And so the question then would be, you know, is it yes or no? There's really no right answer. But at the same time, specifically for Boston, the statement was there is currently no Lamborghini dealership there. Then you would have to ask the question, why is there not already a Lamborghini dealership there? Yeah. Did they truly, like you say, did they market research and maybe there are no customers?
Right.
But we don't know that, right? Again, so oversimplifying this.
If you're oversimplifying it and we're excluding that from the example, then yes, it needs to be an experience. Yeah. Like, not to pat myself on the back, But I had to go out to Tesla out in Columbus to be able to go get my new car. And to get the experience, like I flew in and they drove me from the airport in an Usher and like made an experience of me going in there. Like it made it feel totally different than walking into like Sam Lehman's down the road. like not to be a jerk to Sam Lehman, but like it was an experience to go in the door. And so if we are excluding all of that from that, and we are purely looking at this from a good hypothetical, he's done all the research, he's done all that, it's just a really bad first day, then yeah, I would say no, I would not take the business. It would potentially look bad on the business to be servicing lower end vehicles while customers are ready.
I just feel like if he was busy and booming and here comes the Lord, we can take her then. So whatever that is then, it should be the same either way.
Wow. That's really interesting because if you look at dealerships here now, they'll take anybody. Mm-hmm. So then the question is, are they doing the right thing, right? For them. We don't know.
Depending on their goals.
Exactly.
You know? So like if they don't have like some certain amount they want to need, you know, or like if some businesses just don't have mission, they just want to earn money. So.
Yeah, do you want to be just a cash flowing your business, or do you truly want to create something that will differentiate and stand out? Because then otherwise you become like the competition. Here's another example. What is the difference between Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts? The price. Okay, great. The price.
Consistency.
Sorry, say again.
Price and consistency.
Okay, say more.
Dunkin' is cheaper, but I feel like if I go to the Dunkin' that just got popped up here on Pioneer, or not Pioneer, Pioneer. If I go to that one and I go up to Chicago and go get something, I am getting two completely different food options. Like literally just had this happen the other day, where it was like, I really like a sausage egg croissant. I'm going to have that while we're right next to one. And they were two completely different sandwiches. Where if I go to Starbucks, no matter what I get, it's pretty much going to be the same experience. Whether that's a good experience or not is questionable. I am getting consistency.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Absolutely right. Who else? Any thoughts?
Honestly, I'm going to throw Eli's into this. So it had
interesting.
It's not associated anymore, so we're good. But honestly, that came up when I think they had announced a new Starbucks across the interstate in Morton, for example. And then somebody had commented along the lines of, well, we have all these coffee shops in town, we don't need another Starbucks. And at which point I kind of jumped in and made the point that, well, that Starbucks kind of serves the convenience off the interstate crowd, whereas Eli's serves the community and maybe guests or tourists or whatever it may be. So I don't believe that Starbucks is trying to, actively compete with Eli's, while Eli's is not trying to compete with Starbucks. They're two different experiences. That as well.
Yeah. So there's yes, absolutely. Anybody else? Who else wants to share? Okay, so here's my 2 cents on Starbucks versus Dunkin' Donuts. Dunkin' Donuts sells coffee. Starbucks sells the experience, right? Oh, Philip's here. Welcome. Well, have a seat. So in regards to Starbucks, let's start with Dunkin' Donuts. Small, medium, large, right?
Oh, wow.
What does Starbucks sell in terms of sizes?
I don't know.
Tall, grande, and venti. Yeah. Completely separating the sizes.
There's venti and trendy.
Oh yes, that too. What? Yes, that fills up an entire wine bottle.
Oh, wow.
And what do? They changed their brand and their company name from Starbucks Coffee to Starbucks. They disassociated from coffee as their core identity. This is, I want to say, 6 years ago.
So now they can sell you a $10 grilled cheese.
That's right.
For the experience.
I don't take the kids to school anymore. want to go to Starbucks for breakfast. Not with my no. Not even with Bitcoin.
Okay. Don't tell anybody about your Bitcoin stash. Okay.
I sold it all off this morning.
Okay. All right. We're going to move on to the next video. All right. Here.
I know this can be a bit confusing. And at one point, we see people, yes, I'd take the business. No, I wouldn't take the business. And when I ask them why, what framework they think about it, there's no solid framework. What we want to do here in this class is give you a very solid framework to analyze critically important decisions in your business. And this decision will be easy once you understand that you need to build the company from the customer back. Erdin's business plan targeted a group in Boston that was underserved. It was a persona that we have here. It's called Giovanni. Giovanni is in his 40s. Giovanni makes a tremendous amount of money because a Lamborghini will cost you $300,000 to start, and then there's a whole bunch of ancillary things. So Giovanni makes well over $1 million. He's in his 40s. It turns out that he's not married anymore. He was married once, but in his pursuit to make the most money in his hedge fund, to become a partner in his law firm, to become a partner in his accounting firm, he kind of left his family behind. He was so driven to do that. Now he has more money than time. He has fun with his friends by going to the hottest nightclubs in Boston, dating models, going to Monaco. He loves the time that he met George Clooney when he was younger. And it was just a very exciting thing. What Giovanni is buying here, and we could go through the clothes he wears, the clubs he belongs to, the websites, the magazines he reads, the movies he reads, the clothes he wears, the cologne, the aftershave. But at the end of the day, what Giovanni is buying is not a car. He is buying an image. And this persona that we built up is much different than the persona of Laura. Laura is 40s as well, but she is female. She is married. She has a 4-year-old Volvo. So she's very committed to her kids. She probably makes, our family makes $300,000, $400,000 a year, not in the same group. And she's thinking about, how do I pay for college? How do I keep our home in this expensive, exclusive area? Where does she spend her time on Saturday nights? She spends it at Chuck E. Cheese's. She spends weekend mornings on soccer fields. She is the typical soccer mom prototype that we think of. Now you can say, well, that's a stereotype. But this is exactly what companies do. They build a persona of it. Is it exact? No. But what it does is it creates in the bell curve the most likely customers to buy their products. There will be some outlying people that buy Lamborghinis. Tom Brady buys a Lamborghini. Well, guess what? There's only one Tom Brady. But there's a whole bunch of people in here who are hedge fund managers working in the financial sector, partners in law firms, accounting firms. And this sweet spot is where we're going. And these people are homogeneous. They speak to each other. They have a similar sales cycle. They want the same message. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for a target group represented by this persona. And that persona is fundamentally different than Laura. Laura is actually a threat to Giovanni. She represents the wife that divorced Giovanni because he was so dedicated to succeeding his work. He was so compulsive about it. So when he sees Laura's Volvo there, when he sees Laura, he is likely not to come back to Erdin's shop. And let me build it a little further. Is that to attract Giovanni, he had to go out and buy a $25,000 coffee maker, which made sense because he could make hundreds of thousands of dollars off Giovanni. On the other hand, over the lifetime that Laura would come in, he might make $10,000 if he was lucky. He can't afford that $25,000 coffee machine that was imported from Italy. Now, that doesn't mean that you couldn't make a profitable business with Laura, but it means you have to have a lower cost structure. This framework of having personas and being focused on it, and think about how do you get a homogeneous group so that you can give them a great product that they go tell other people within their customer segment, is what makes for great companies. And if you try to do two at the same time, you will end up doing neither well. You'll have an in-between strategy, which we call the mermaid strategy. neither woman nor fish. It does neither particularly well. You can't have that type of strategy. Do one thing, do it well. This is the focus. So in the end, Erdin had a lot of urge to take that business. He should not take that business if he's going to be disciplined. He has to focus and find out, how does he get Giovanni into his business? How does he make him very, very happy, and not take the short-term fix of Laura, because that will destroy him in the long term. Of all the stories we just went through, first of all, make it very clear. If you want to have a business, you need a paying customer, but we need multiple paying customers. So in the second story, we think about what's the moral of the Lamborghini story. It is, we don't just need a paying customer or any paying customer. We need to figure out how we get a paying customer that's similar in nature, and that's Giovanni. And then if we do a great job for Giovanni, we could get a lot of other Giovannis. So we have to focus on that and deselect all these other people. And if we don't deselect, we'll end up with a mediocre company. If we select and focus on that customer and do a great job, we'll have a great company. We'll go viral, and Giovanni will sell the product to other Giovannis. And that makes for a very successful business. So at the end of the day, we have this diagram here which says, don't be driven by the individual transaction, even though we like money and paying customers, nor should we be driven by this high level cloud here, where we call this the China syndrome, or fun with spreadsheets, where there's 1.6 million people in China, and if I just sell 0.1% of them my product, I'll be rich. That's just big numbers, small percent. We don't really understand the customer. What we want to do is find a persona like Giovanni, or it could be Laura. It doesn't have to be Giovanni, but we need to pick one, and then we need to solve their problem really, really well, and then not be distracted by other people. That's the moral of the stories that I just gave you. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus on a specific customer or group of customers where they're all pretty similar, and then we're going to build the company back from them, and we're going to do it with great focus and deselect everything else and not get distracted. The stories you've just heard indicate the power of a persona. It, in fact, is the key that unlocks the door to you to have a successful company. It gives you that specificity, that clarity of who your customer is. So now you can build your company back and know who you should focus on and defocus on everybody else. It represents a profitable group for you to go after. That being said, we don't start with the persona. We build up to that in a systematic, disciplined manner. And the first step in that process is market segmentation. So,
okay, what does everybody think? Philip,
Go ahead.
what does everybody think about the moral of the Lamborghini story?
Totally agree. I really agree with that. I've been doing photography, well, my own business over 2 years, but photographing children for 20. And I've had some experience, and I totally agree with them.
So tell me, how did you figure out, were you going after multiple types of customers?
Yeah, I was like you guys, like, oh, take them, whoever, excuse me, whoever. See, this is the thing, my niche is now children. And so I get to that point where I want to cancel our weddings. I used to, shoot everything. And I just want to narrow down to children. And I have people inquire about weddings all the time. So I'm just kind of basing off of referrals. And I just feel that my equipment and things that I have is geared for children, like a wedding. And they're not my ideal clients, So instead of it being like a debatable, debating about it and being a headache, I want to do it.
But how did you figure out that you were going to deselect all the weddings and you just wanted to focus on children?
Just the experience, dealing with a bride and groom. I just feel like I actually had a bridezilla that, comes to mind quickly, and when I think of weddings, and so yeah, that's how that helped me decide. I'd rather deal with a 2-year-old, 3-year-old over that, and it really go to your customer. You'll know your customers. They talk to you. Like people tell me, well, how did you do that when I photographed the child? Because they're running all over the place, but I let them be them. And when the parents look at the photos, they're like, when did you even take this? So that lets me know that's what I do great, is photographing the children, so I stick with that. That's how.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's how I do the experience.
Yeah.
That's funny. Listening to, what's this, 4? This is a 4 video?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was having a conversation just before the reason why I'm late with the client, the West Coast client I introduced you to.
Okay.
Right. And what I was telling him about his social media efforts was about, you have all of these different projects and you have no defined market, right? And so I was talking to him about the strategy I've just been using for the last few weeks with Peoria. And the views are like monstrous now, right? It's the same tactic I used on LinkedIn back in 2018. And he's continuous in his thought that the way he's doing it is the way to go. And I'm telling him, no, you haven't even defined who the natural people are who are going to associate with you continuously on social media. So how do you know who's going to stream if you have no defined market, right? How do you know who's going to actually go out and buy the album or even download it if you don't know who you're marketing to? And you always have to beat back, overturn those negative thoughts. And it came back to either you listen or you don't. We have to define what your market is first, right? And that's what social media is for, defining the market. And once you know exactly who is supporting you, who's actually going to go out and talk to the people who will purchase, you have nothing to say. Right? It took me an hour and a half, but he finally got it, right? So yeah, that's a great lesson thought, right? Just changed my mind about what I said. Right?
Philip, you have something to say?
First, my apologies for being late. So I understand we talk about personas.
Yeah.
It's one of these things that a different name for persona is profile. And as much bad as that may sound, the idea of segmentation and profiling for personas is both an art and a science as it relates to creating a startup. And that information also needs to be taken care of very seriously, but also delegated. Because you can also narrow yourself into a corner that becomes very difficult to get out of. The concept with personas is really as your, I don't know, have you done value proposition?
We haven't got there yet. We're just starting off with the introduction into market segmentation.
Because all of this, part of it is that each of these taken in module form are very good, but the other is ultimately is how you stitch all that back together. And so the part of it is to simplify it. Personas are one of the few areas when you're developing a startup where you have to somewhat become, as you said, dispassionate. It's very, it is close to black and white as you're going to get with this, as far as, and create multiple complementary personas that help you shape your business. And so the whole aspect, but the market segmentation and personas, that's when people talk about marketing, this is the dirty side of marketing that everyone needs to do. The fluffy, fancy side, no offense to those who do it, is the outbound stuff. But the inbound is built upon this, and so it's one of the most important things you do.
Agree. Any last quick thoughts or comments? Thank you, Philip. Okay, so we're going to go very quickly into market segmentation, and then we can look at how they do some interviews.
What is market segmentation? Well, market segmentation is a systematic categorization of potential markets for your idea. Essentially, it is a description of multiple groups of target customers, groups that are homogeneous and distinct. Done right, market segmentation will reveal important differences between seemingly similar groups of target customers. The understanding of those differences will make you much more successful in deciding what market to pursue first, why, and how. Ultimately, market segmentation leads you on a path to figuring out who your persona is, the persona around whom you'll build a strong and sustainable business. The fun part about market segmentation is that you get to wear multiple hats. You'll have to be creative. You'll have to be analytical. But most importantly, you'll have to go out and talk to as many prospective target customers as possible. So let's talk about how you do market segmentation and use the following example. Meet a team of MIT students who invented a new technology for harnessing energy from friction. This technology promises an unprecedented efficiency ratio, which makes the students very excited. They even created a self-powering skateboard to demonstrate what the technology can do. Start by brainstorming. Throw every idea at the wall, including the crazy ones. Don't worry about analyzing and especially criticizing ideas. At this point, keep your aperture wide open. Identify potential industries for your idea. In the case of the friction energy technology invented by our students, potential industries could be the automotive industry, sports, electronics, healthcare, energy, and architecture, to name a few. Subdivide each industry into markets and market segments. This gives specificity and structure to your process. Let's take the automotive industry as an example. This industry will be broken down into three key markets. The market for non-electric vehicles, hybrids, and electric vehicles. And each of these markets contains market segments such as sedans, sports cars, SUVs, trucks, RVs, and motorcycles. List the people who may benefit from your idea in each industry and ideally in each market segment. Focus first on end users, not customers. Your end user is the person who uses your product. Your customer pays for it. So far, our student entrepreneurs identified two main categories of end users. Those in the pre-production stage, such as design engineers and assembly engineers, and those in the post-production stage, such as maintenance engineers and auto enthusiasts. Once you have identified the end users, describe the various tasks that they perform and how they would use your product. Your next task is to narrow the field. List the top 6 to 12 market segments that are most interesting. Like many things in life, your limiting factor is time. You should research and analyze prospective markets in depth, but you do not have unlimited time to consider all options. So 6 to 12 opportunities is more than enough. After that, the next step is primary market research. In other words, go and talk to some real people. Theory doesn't produce data, action does.
So what I've seen is that people want to build what they want to do, but they don't want to actually go out and talk to people. And it's scary to talk to people, especially when you think like, oh, I'm going to sell something. But the moment you start selling is the time when you actually stop listening. Because all you're doing is you're pushing. You're pushing, right? Instead of truly listening. So we're going to get into how do we learn? How do we learn? Okay, we're not selling yet. We're going to be learning.
This is the warmest day of the last month, and we are officially out on the street to enthusiastically interview some prospective customers. So here we go. For you to be successful with primary customer research, you got to be fearless. Go and talk to people. What's the worst thing that can happen?
Yeah, but I don't have time right now.
That's okay. You go and find someone else to talk to. Thank you so much for a minute of your time. I know I'm catching you on a beautiful spring day. Out of curiosity, what are you doing in the store this Saturday?
Just shopping around. Just walking around here. I just came first time to Boston.
It's a beautiful day.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
We are going to entertain some homeless people. This is some of my juggling. And we're going to make a video out of it and end up giving a homeless person $50 in the end.
Oh wait, we have to come up with an idea. So what is our idea? How about a website where you can buy off-season clothing at a steep discount? I have no idea who might be interested in the website like that. I like it. It's cheaper.
I like it a lot. I would definitely do it.
We're here today on Newbury Street, which is one of the most popular shopping districts in Boston. You will meet many people here of different types who are shopping here today. What do you do?
I work for a software company.
I'm actually a tax attorney. That's what I do from school. Boston.
I'm a vice president branding communication from a Danish company.
I work at MIT for the investment management company. I'm in school right now, so in high school, we're going to meet just trying to figure out the deal for all my life.
Executive assistant at a PR firm, sales rep for a
I'm a mediator. Let's make some assumptions. Assumption number one, the person who would be interested in this website already shops online. Do you also shop online?
I do. I find that, unfortunately, I spend a bit of time on Amazon.
I'm always online looking for deals, particularly when I get emails. All the time. I tend to do more online shopping. Sometimes.
I shop online all the time.
What do you shop for?
I'll shop typically for either consumer electronics, clothing, those sorts of things.
Yes, we use eBay a lot. Gotta be curious. Talk to people. Learn about their lives. I'm so sorry to interrupt you on the street, but I have to ask, where did you buy this fabulous coat?
This is a gift. My mother purchased it for me at the paper store.
What do you want to do with your jacket?
I don't know yet. That's for sure. Entrepreneur actually sounds pretty good.
You gotta be open-minded and unbiased. Remember, you're an inquiry mode, not an advocacy mode. Spring is coming. And what kind of spring clothes are you looking for?
Bright colors and long dresses.
What do you think this coat tells us about fashion style?
I'd say it's a little bit preppy. Like to keep up with the styles.
It's apparel. I have a pretty standard taste.
How would you define fashion style?
My fashion style? Looking, I guess. I don't know. I just go for that.
Shoes, Zappos, J. Crew, Factory Outlet, Revolve, Gills.
If I may ask, why do you shop on those sites?
Because they have the brands I like, and I don't always have time to go to shopping. I would never buy tennis shoes online. Worldwide, that's the thing. You can get anything online.
Worldwide. Assumption number two, the person who would be interested in such a website is a planner, likes to look ahead. Now, we are assuming that the people who might be interested in this, but if the people who are naturally planners, they like to plan things ahead. Would you consider yourself a planner?
It's a mixed bag. For some purchases, especially larger ones, I'll usually try to plan it out. But for other purchases, I may just impulsively buy in the store.
I plan my schedule for work. I plan my schedule socially. When everything I plan events. I plan charity functions. I plan my own life.
And I'm also assuming that person is a discount shop. They like to buy things at a discount. So by virtue of the fact that you shop at Gill, that you shop at Fulada, that you shop at J. Crew Outlet, it tells me that you like discounts.
I do like discounts, yeah.
I would say I'm mostly a discount shopper, but that being said, I won't sacrifice quality all the time for an absolute discount.
Wow, so you are a planner to look into the future? You are a discount shopper? You are very lucky. You shop online? Where do you go? Do you like Amazon? Do you like discounts? Do you like quality shopping? Look at you. I know that you love quality shopping. And we can tell it right away.
Oops. What do you think? What do you think of the interviews? So John, you spend time talking to people at the farmers markets.
Yeah.
Can you share more about your conversations with your customers?
I mean, the conversations aren't talking about buying a product usually, not like they were talking about. It's just finding out about them. Why are you here? Oh, what are you interested in? Usually you can tell when someone comes into the booth whether they're interested in talking to us. First, you have to filter out people that you just don't. They can tell they're standoffish, right? But the conversation itself about people, when they ask you a question, they've opened the door for you to give them more information, ask additional questions. Usually we start off with lifestyle questions of some sort, similar to what they do. So yeah, it's funny how people open up. You're not selling them anything, and you're just talking about, oh, have you been to this park? Have you done this type of thing? Oh, you're looking at design. Oh, you like that design? So what other designs do we have here that you're missing that you would like to see? We ask those types of questions. So you don't ever ask anyone to buy something. We ask them about their lifestyle, the types of things they like, because we want to know about those people that are coming to the booth and are even interested in walking into the booth in the first place, right? And so that's how I handle it.
But how do you know to ask those questions?
Lead me a little bit more.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
who told you that you should ask or talk to people that way?
Well, let's be fair. My wife is the most empathetic and knows how to relate to people much more than I do. So that being said, I mean, I would say Dee definitely knows how to handle those types of situations and get people to talk about their experience and what their likes, their dislikes are, and relate more to them. Cool. So yeah, you're asking me for personally, Dee is definitely the one that I
right,
Of course, and she's gonna be watching this later.
Oh yeah, I
she's fantastic, by the way. She really is.
Oh, she's a lovely person. Love her.
So
no, but yeah, so Dee is definitely the empathetic person who understands how to get in touch with people. So,
awesome. Katie, I'm gonna ask you about Eli for a second.
Yeah, I mean, it was the same way. People would come in, and I could get them to tell me their whole life story just by asking a couple of them, just by showing interest in somebody. Because people want to talk about themselves. People are just like dying to talk about themselves. And so if you give them a minute, oh my gosh, they'd be customers for life because they can come in. It's like how Starbucks marketed that third space.
Yeah.
Not home, it's not work, it's this other place. And they can just be themselves. And so, I mean, I think I'm pretty good at it too. And it's just talking to people and asking them.
So when you started Eli's, were you like that?
Mm-hmm.
So like natural from the start.
Once I got, it took me because I had a job before Eli's, like a real job that paid me a salary. And so, and it was with people, it was doing loans, mortgage loans. And so I was asking people all sorts of really deeply personal questions. And I think it stemmed from that. And then just being in a great environment of the coffee shop.
So do you think that was like the mortgage loan business really set you up, that training really set you up for talking to people and being curious?
It's my personality though too. I mean, I've always I should say, I think my family would say, like, I've always just been one who will go up and ask the hard questions, or just engage with somebody maybe that nobody else would. And I've got a great story that we don't have time for tonight, but that's kind of how I got into Eli's in the first place, was by asking some really good questions with the right people. So I think it's just talking to people and being very open with them and asking just so many questions. So
it's awesome. And Sean, how did you start your photography business?
Well, I used to manage a portrait studio, PCA National, and portrait studio in Walmart. And so I feel like Katie, it's part of my personality. I'm a people person, but the sales, type of thing is totally different. But just socializing and talking with people is natural for me. I always tell people a compliment and a smile goes a long way. And people do like to talk about themselves, so
Awesome. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna move on so that we can finish off for today. All right.
It's 9 p.m. Saturday evening, we are back from primary customer research. This process takes a lot of energy, but gives a lot of wisdom. So let's remind ourselves, why do we do it? We do primary customer research because we are looking for a homogeneous group of target customers who experience a similar problem and who can deliver a solution at similar cost and pay similar amounts of money for that solution. So let's review where we are. In the online retail industry, we are looking at the apparel market because we're looking to sell clothing. The apparel market could be subdivided into multiple market segments, the notable ones of which are casual clothing, professional clothing, and sports clothing. Now, it's important to recognize is that each of those market segments could be divided into more specific subsegments that are based on style, such as urban, modern, preppy, classic. And even more specific subsegments based on the price factor of the clothing, from inexpensive to very expensive. Now, as you can see, we're getting progressively more specific on our paths to find our persona around whom we'll build our business. We're in a good place, but don't relax just yet. Our goal now is to find several market segments that are interesting and promising and do more research and analysis. In the process, ask the following questions. Who is the end user? One of our segments, for example, the end user could be a male in his early 30s who doesn't care very much about fashion, but wants to dress well and has a classic style. He has a decent job, works very hard, so he doesn't have a lot of time for shopping, which is why online is important to him. He makes a good amount of money, but not enough not to care about getting discounts to buy good clothing. Let's call him Josh. What is the application? Why would the end user use your service? In our case, Josh would use us to buy products far in advance at a discount. But not just that, also ask what tasks would be dramatically improved by the end user using the product. What is the benefit? What problem is solved by your end user using the product? Does the end user save time? Does the end user save money? Does the end user make more money? You have to ask those questions. Who are the lead customers? That is the influential customers, for whose example others will be compelled to use the service. What are the market characteristics that would promote or impede the adoption of the product? Clothing, for example, is a market that is driven by fashion, which changes fast. How will this affect how Josh or other end users view our service? What is the market size of the segment that you're looking to target? We're going to cover the estimation of the market size later in this course. What is the competition? If Josh cares about good classic clothing at a discount, and solve the problem with different providers. Who are the necessary partners? For us to be able to sell clothing to Josh, we need to work with clothing manufacturers and clothing retailers. What are the complementary assets required? For Josh to shop with us, he needs to have either a computer or a mobile phone with an internet connection, and definitely a credit card. It sounds obvious, and it is, with technologies as ubiquitous as a mobile phone or a computer. But it's often not that obvious with more complex products. Let's see where we are. Started at the top. Press side. Hypothetically, Josh. Now, we may be completely wrong in our assumption that Josh would be interested. That doesn't matter.
At least we can go and find people like Josh and learn more about them, interview them directly. We'll get a definitive answer without beating around the bush and wasting time and resources. We'll move on to a different segment, a different set of end users, and we'll continue on our journey to find the persona that will be at the foundation of a good and sustainable business for us. Good luck.
How do you make money?
All right. So where was I? Oh, I forgot one thing. So in the email, you should have received an email that has the market segmentation starter template. And so, what he did, what Erdin did, was to really go out and talk to customers, find out what people truly think versus what you think they think. And so the book that I have here, it's called Talking to Humans. And you can go to talkingtohumans.com and register as a student and download the free PDF, or you can buy one for $10. And I'm just going to pass it around. And it's really about how can you talk to people in a way that is not selling, but gathering information. You're in information gathering mode, what he calls it, or Dean calls it inquiry mode, right? As opposed to selling. And so that's a really big piece. The way I like to think about it is you're James Bond. For the women, I don't know what the equivalent of James Bond, the female version. I don't know if there's any. But all that to say, what's that? Lara Croft, perhaps. But really, it's the idea that you're the fly on the wall. You're the fly on the wall, right? You're trying to understand from their perspective what they truly think without actually trying to show them anything that you're trying to do. Because that's the best way to get and to the point of an unbiased feedback from them, so that it will inform your internal checklist on your sheet of paper that you may have in front of you in your notebook, or it could be in your brain, you're just checkmarked all the assumptions that you've made about your particular business and the direction that you want to grow. The other book that is also interesting that we can get to the next time, it's Testing with Humans. And so now that you've talked to humans, talked to people, how can you start running experiments like what he's doing with talking to people and more? How can you start running experiments to test and validate that your assumptions are correct? What he said about a particular market segment about Josh may be incorrect, but if you don't test, you don't know. And so the fact that you can test without actually spending money, case in point of the VR stuff, John. The fact that you can test without actually spending money and validate that people actually will buy or will engage with you without actually spending money is going to be significantly helpful. The one challenge I've seen is people who have money actually spend the money in advance of actually doing this hard work. And then as a result of that, they've lost a year and they've lost a lot of money. So where is that? Yeah, market segmentation. I think this is super important because at the heart of it, Chris, yeah, someone?
No, sorry. Being instructing kid in class.
Yeah, so at the heart of it, it's super important because if you can't compare if it's not apples to apples. And so very often we do this in our minds, but we don't put it on paper. And so each column is a segment of a certain type of customer, a certain type of industry that you're trying to go after. Could be an industry, it could be a customer segment. It could be, it could even be a particular type of person who maybe enjoys, in your case, John, the physical activity outdoors, but may not be a customer because he's like super, you know, commando type that is going out into the wilderness by himself. He may not be, right? He may not be the one that's like, I want to share stories, right? So we have to really understand really well who those people are. Anybody have thoughts, questions, comments about today's class, today's workshop? That helpful?
It definitely was helpful. It definitely seems like there is some tools to help me narrow down, because I think that's the biggest part for me that I've had trouble with is like, okay, like the point of Great Tech is giving people the assets to be able to do creative things. Like that's the entire visionary behind it. And like I've had a few clients like here and there like, hey, I want this broadcast set up at this building, so that we can do broadcasts for our services. Or hey, can you come and stream this graduation ceremony, so that way the families who are not able to be here can still see what's happening at the graduation ceremony. And those are cool, and I'm glad to be a part of them. But like when it comes down to it, like I don't really know who my client base is, and I don't really know how to advertise to them, because like it's so vast what I am like trying to conquer. Because like to be, I don't know how, is this a family friendly event?
Well,
no. It is being recorded. Okay. The actual point of why it started was at the beginning of the pandemic, I had a lot of friends who got in the OnlyFans business.
Okay.
And they wanted to be able to get into that, but they had no idea how to actually use streaming equipment to be able to reach the people that they were streaming it out to.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, I've been in broadcast for 10 plus years. I know how to set up streaming stuff. I know how to use the gear, how to use your cameras. I can recommend you all this gear and tell you how to actually do this. And so that's how it started. That's how everything like did it. But then I like stuff changes and whatnot. And so it just wasn't the base that I thought it would be a lot of. There was like a couple clients from that. It was really fun. I was really glad to be able to encourage these people to make creative content and be able to pursue self-entrepreneurship. But that kind of panned out. It kind of went out. And so now I'm like doing stuff every once in a while and doing stuff like here and there. But like I've never found what my actual client base is. And so I think it's cool that now I have tools to be like, all right, let me throw a bunch of darts at the board and figure out like, where am I actually trying to like advertise to? Who is the people who are actually going?
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: when you first started, when did you have you been consistent with one thing though, out of all the things that you've done?
Between two things, yes. So offering broadcast setup is one, and offering 3D printed services is the other. And so like I will come to your event and do broadcast setup for whatever you need, whether it be graduation ceremony or you personally. I can just do whatever I need to do. I normally sit down and have a consultation with you and kind of talk about what your vision for the event would be. But that's one side of the business, and the other side is the 3D printing stuff. And that's because I'm just a huge 3D printing fanatic. And so people need 3D printed stuff, and I have 7 3D printers. So those are the two sides of the business. But I'm trying to be very focused in that I'm only doing those two things. I'm not, as much as I would love to open up a really good ramen shop in Peoria, I'm not doing that.
So wouldn't your customer base be then somebody, takes more thought into this, but somebody who wants to share what they are doing with others?
I mean, literally, I don't mean to self-brag, but the logo for Great Tech Solutions is helping others create awesome stuff. Mm-hmm. That's what it's always been about. Like that's who, again, not to humble brag, that's who I am as a person. I am not a personality. I am not somebody to be put in front of a camera. I am somebody who helps other people create awesome stuff. That's always been my focus, is I just want to help people make cool stuff. What they're passionate about, I want that to be the focus. And so I just have a hard time finding those types of people who are like, hey, I'm on fire about this. I really want to get out there. And I'm like, cool, let me help you do that. Like that's what I'm having trouble finding.
So Sed that was here, he owns a White Hat studio.
Oh.
So maybe you want to be talking to him.
Yeah, sure.
Right? So you know. Yeah. So where I'm getting at with this is you started in one market segment with that particular industry.
Yeah.
And then it shifted. And then you went along with that shift. And so it was the testing, you started with one, but then you ended up with multiple other ones.
Right.
And so that's really the idea. You start at one, but then you start mapping it out and discovering, okay, well, where are the ones that I'm actually getting consistent clients from?
Right.
And then you decide, hey, is there one particular one or a few that you may just want to be focusing on, just like Sean was focusing on children's photography?
Yeah, and that's I think that's kind of where I'm coming after tonight. Is like, cool, I have like new tools to be able to kind of narrow down where I'm like looking at now. Because like, yeah, I obviously grew through it. Because like I had to. Because like this whole thing started out of, yeah, I just want to make money legally. I was getting a lot of money from consultations, and I didn't want to have the IRS knocking at my door. Yeah. So, but now like I have a way to do that, and like now I'm like, well, I love doing this. I love giving people the spotlight to be able to do cool things. So now I have cool tools to be able to look at it more.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think you're doing great from what it sounds like. I've just never heard of you. So however, I would say whenever you display what you have going on, your marketing, that would really help out, you know, show exactly what it is that you're doing and just stick with that. I think that will help you out a lot.
That's the hard part.
Yeah.
So maybe sharing that experience of from start to finish, what somebody got that experience of working with you. It's that, I mean, you know, I'm just kind of, not this is something, so I won't call it from just like teaching my son to stream because that's something I'm familiar with, but that's something he wants to do.
Yeah.
You know, and he's got the creativity, and he's got the different things that are entertaining to people, but he doesn't know how to use the tools yet.
Yeah.
So then I jump in to show him the tools, but you know, he's not alone. There are a lot of people, and he probably has more knowledge at his age, at the age of 10, than maybe somebody in their 30s who wants to do the exact same thing. But would definitely benefit from having you come in and walk through that. So that's where I'm like, hey, let me come in and help you.
And you know, I would then just to build on that some more is, where do you derive the most joy and money from? Is it the consultations? Is it the actual setup? Which part? Because at the end of the day, it's what do you want to do that is fun and also makes you money?
I don't mind talking to, like, I honestly do, like, obviously I'm talking a whole lot tonight. So I obviously don't mind talking to people, and I do find enjoyment in it. But when the blade hits the grindstone, I'm a technical person. I will always love just being a wire monkey and like setting stuff up and just like executing. Like I am a tinkerer by trade. Obviously, I build printers and robots and stuff. So like I love getting my hands dirty and actually having fun. Like if I could run and do a event where I'm wire monkeying 250 feet of SDI cable through a cathedral, figure out how to do it every weekend, I have a blast. Like that's so much fun to me to like figure out creative solutions of like how are we going to make this the best presentation possible and like make these people the spotlight. So both are really fun to me. But obviously I love the creative engineering setting up events.
Yeah. And it also depends on the market, right? So what's the market demand?
Boy, you would have thought that it would have changed. I mean, well, and maybe it's just that. Maybe it's just people haven't heard of me. And I just haven't been getting my name out there. But I really thought like with a post-pandemic world emerging, streaming is still going to be an essential task to a lot of different things.
Yeah.
A lot of people are going to need a streaming asset going forward, because one, a lot of people are working remote now and switching locations no matter where they work. And two, like there's always going to need to be this thing for remote viewing, because this is the world now.
Yeah.
And so I would think that there would be, but as much research as I've always done at Peoria, Peoria just is weird. It's
Why is Darina laughing?
Do you agree, Andrew?
We don't have a ramen shop. This is the problem.
Well, there's the noshery. Have you been there?
Yep.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen my review on the
I
Noshery's
haven't.
website.
I haven't.
Oh.
Okay, well, we're kind of
Yep.
Philip had something to say.
Well, backing up a couple things.
Yeah.
The whole customer discovery interview process is not an interview, it's a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you have to lead that best you can to get the most out of it. So once you start those conversations, people start sharing more.
Yeah.
In fact, it's almost like slow down. I'm trying to, if you're taking notes.
Yeah.
So part of it is starting those customer discovery discussions. You need to do a little homework.
Yeah.
So now back to, you mentioned, we talked a whole bunch of stuff about stuff like wire and then turned to weird. I mean, both words are the same letters. Did you not know that?
What's that?
Weird and wire have the same letters in words.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of shuffle around it.
Yeah.
The challenge, any business, it's a fairly simple equation. You provide something, product, service you're offering, whatever that is you're offering, to a set of customers. The thing that is the connecting point is the value you provide to them. It's their value, not your value. And once people start to shift away from, I'm doing this for you, into understanding why you're doing it and adding value to them, we'll change that into more of an understanding. So the customers become less and less weird. You may become more weird. It's the thing. And so part of it is how you shift. And there's some big pivots that those who start their own business, small business, stay away from. Small business and lifestyle businesses, a lot of times the challenge for them is they've already decided what they want to deliver to their customers. Okay, but have they figured out what the customers really, what is of value to the customers? And once you shift that, then it becomes much more, it's progressive in form. Sure. And allows for that to grow. And so I was late, so a little introduction. My name's Philip, and my why is actually helping individuals and teams achieve that performance. That's all it is. So I teach this stuff at the college level. I mentor it. I actually met you 3 years ago as an advisor. I have a little strange thing that I have a situation like eidetic memory, so I can, and that's what actually benefits me to put all this together. Yeah. So part of it is, it does take time, but back to the core of a lot of this about the personas and the understanding, it's using that to shape what you're offering to provide to them that's of value to them. And thinking of it in terms of, you said something that I would, those who I mentor or advise would put up, say, give you a yellow flag, because if your purpose is generating revenue from them and that's your value, you sort of need to go back to understanding first how you provide value to them. You can derive money from that, because that value, then it shifts from being what is it cost plus, it is what are they going to pay of some value. So
yeah,
some of it is shifting the narrative, but it's always, that narrative should always be based on your customer and your market. and what they're looking for. And sometimes, yes, there's people like Hewlett and Packard that start in the garage, and then Wozniak and Jobs start in the garage. Let's say Garage. They started those places, and yeah, they thought they'd be better than others. But they also listen. And so, any business is really about listening. And it's. I've actually given teach a course on active listening, and remind people that 2 ears, 2 eyes, and 1 mouth that should be used proportionately in any conversation.
So Eric had a question for you, John.
Oh boy.
The question was, what are John and Dee's assumptions about the customers they're likely to encounter at farmers markets?
Assumptions.
Did you have assumptions on who you encounter?
At first, it's hard to remember all the way back to when we went to the
well, whatever you can remember.
Market. But yeah, so we had assumptions that we had this experience that everyone was going to buy into, right? And that, of course, they're coming to the farmers market. So everyone coming to the farmers market is going to buy into sharing stories of being outdoors because they are. But there's a much smaller market of that, much smaller percentage of those people who care about that. We realized by watching the market then that the whole market doesn't necessarily cater to us. When I'm talking about the time frame from the start to the finish. The people who come to the market in the beginning aren't there to shop for our markets. They don't care about us. They are there to go and get the fruits and vegetables and get out before the bigger crowds come. So from 8 o'clock till about 9:30, those are the people that are there. I'm doing my grocery shopping. I have other things to do, and I'm going. And then you have the people that come in after that. There are more families come in after that. Maybe they're mingling around. They're getting the lemonade shake up. They're getting the donut or whatever. They're busy. Oh gosh, what's the cheese?
For the pretzel?
No, the cheesecake.
Oh, triple dipple.
Triple dipple. Oh my gosh, triple dipple. So
all of those.
So all of the vendors start going to the vendors, and that's when we start seeing more of those people, right? And so.
But you learned that, you didn't learn that on the first time. You were like,
gosh, no. The assumptions were it's a farmer's market. We assumed that people going to the farmer's market would be more relatable to what the experience was that we were trying to have.
So,
and I think that's still the case, generally speaking.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a whole bunch of nuances with the farmer's market and the people that attended. There's different sections of people that attend.
So you had a sort of assumption that you were just going to create it and everybody was going to buy it. But then you discovered that was not necessarily always the case, fully the case.
That was not the case, right.
And then you learn as part of that process that, going to different.
Right, and we make some assumptions when we hear some people saying that, oh, we love this type of idea or this type of product. Do you have any of these? Do you have any of these? And so then all of a sudden you're like, so let's say tank tops. Let's say
because you didn't have tank tops.
We didn't have tank tops. We had a lot of people. So through talking with them and asking them what they like, find out what. So then we find out that people really want tank tops. That was a good hit. So a lot of people, especially women, like tank tops, and they're buying those tank tops. But sweatshirts and kids' clothes, we had several people say we would love to have kids' clothes. Let's do kids' clothes. So we bring in long sleeve shirts for kids. We still have a pile of those that are not. So kids' clothes aren't quite as popular. And part of that was we went into it thinking that everyone would buy that. But what we didn't take into account was the assumption that people would buy it at any cost. When I say any cost in that when at our size, the cost for our goods are much higher than they are for many other places because we're only getting 100 shirts, maybe 150 shirts done at any one time. And so the cost of those shirts is higher. The cost to print those shirts is higher.
Yeah.
And so, especially when you're talking about kids' clothes, and we also thought, okay, well, people really care about Made in USA. So we're going to get made in USA shirts because that's what people care about. We're supporting local economy inside of the US. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And so, but the cost of those shirts go up significantly. So then when people see there's cost of a 3T shirt for a 2-year-old, and the cost of that shirt is $28, they're like, no, you're not Patagonia. Sorry, we don't get
right.
So now we have to drop our margins way down. So assumptions were that we would be able to provide some goods that some people wanted at a price that they would want.
Yeah,
and we couldn't. So there are lots of lessons we made.
I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Yeah,
if you
sure,
do it all over again,
yeah,
what would you tell John Ingalls 2 years ago?
Don't do kids clothes. There's no money in kids clothes.
What else would you say?
That being said, what would we do? Man, I don't.
What did 2022 John Ingalls tell 2020 John Ingalls, or 2019, whenever you started?
It doesn't necessarily get any easier. And so strap in because it's difficult.
Would you have created this whole as many lines as you created in the start?
We would have. There's a couple that we so in this market, the whale shirt.
Oh,
the sea lives in all of us, right?
Huh.
Whale shirt.
We're not very close to the sea.
No, not moving those at all in this area. Yeah. So that's not necessarily a real thing. So I think getting a wider gathering of information from people who, when we talk to them about the different designs we do, and we do this now. So we come up with a design, we create a sticker. The sticker goes out. How well are those stickers selling? What are people saying about those stickers? Oh, would you like that? Would you see yourself wearing that in a shirt? And now it's not a matter of, 3 people said they'd wear it in a shirt. Let's get 100 shirts and sell them, So there's a lot of things we would do different about product research before we actually added products.
So your stickers were a test.
Stickers are a test now, yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. And they were in the beginning too. We did stickers as a test, and then that turned into t-shirts. So we did do that.
What's your best-selling t-shirt?
Best the bees.
Huh.
Save the bees, #1.
Wow.
And we've also found that it's typically women that are buying anything in our store. Anything. It is, even if the men are there, it's the women that are buying for them.
Not interesting.
I mean, that's not 100%.
Hey, Andrew.
Yeah.
Could I butt in? Because I'd just like to make a point, and this is one of my favorite.
Of course.
This is one of my favorite things to share about customers.
Oh, sorry, I muted you. I accidentally muted you. Please unmute yourself.
How about now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, great. So John just hit on something that is so wonderful to talk about. It's one of my favorite points about customer persona and customer profiling. And that is the concept of the customer anti-persona.
Yes.
John has just identified who not to even try to sell to. And that will save you, John, so much in time, energy, and other valuable resources. You identified a couple of different things. You identified your time segments that are most valuable to your product at the farmer's market, because you identified that people are at the farmer's market to accomplish different jobs, right? Some just want their groceries. Others want to hang out and have an experience. Some are using it for entertainment. Some are using it for the opportunity to get the kids out of the house and get some energy spent walking them around for a little bit so that they'll take a nap in the afternoon, for crying out loud. He's driving us crazy. But you're hitting on all that, and now you're understanding who in your decision-making unit, right? The user and the one who actually pays are potentially sometimes two very different people, and you're identifying that in what you're learning at the market as well. So again, hats off, because the whole experience and the journey that you're on highlights some really important things that sometimes companies fail before they ever understand. So understanding who is not your ideal market is so valuable. So great.
Yeah. Yeah. Eric, well, thank you so much for bringing up that point. And with that, unfortunately, we've come to our time. And so I want to thank you everyone for coming. And I hope you learned something new today. And yeah, we're going from there to the next one. Thank you.